so grateful to have been invited here on this evening. I want to let you know there are probably 3 of these going on at various corners of the state, and I chose to be here. Because I understand how valuable the Southeast is and that there are counties outside of Atlanta. I'm a native Savannian. I live in Savannah. I'm born and raised in Savannah, went to school in Savannah. I'm a product of public schools and have worked in every sector, both public and private, and in the nonprofit sector. I am running for the Public Service Commission because I believe it is time to take advocacy up a notch, and that we have to move from picket lines and petitions and get seated at the table. We are seeing right now that when you are not at the table, you're on the menu. And so we've got to take our advocacy out of the 4 walls and into places where policy decisions are on the table. If I leave you with nothing else tonight, I want you to know that the Public Service Commission oversees all of the utilities in the state of Georgia. They regulate how much your gas is going to cost, how much your electric bill is going to cost, whether or not you have telecommunications and broadband in your area. All of these things are essential. I've spent 30 years on the front line advocating for policies for economic inclusion and doing community development, whether that has been, leading an initiative for my county and city called Step Up Savannah, where I've developed workforce development programs, whether it's been as a National League of Cities cohort Southern City Leader, where I've helped develop community projects all over the U.S. and in the southern area. And so being at the Public Service Commission means we have an opportunity to have someone at the table who centers people and nonprofits. For the last 6 terms, my incumbent, and along with the entire board, who's Republican, have voted to raise our electricity rates 6 times. They don't care whether or not seniors are choosing between medicine and food. And families are making tough decisions about their regular economy. You know why? Because they're not Georgia Power customers. They're raising rates and they don't even have Georgia Power as their energy provider. And so this race is the only statewide election that's happening in our state during 2025. It's a special election, and it's your opportunity to step up to the ballot box, take all your rage to the ballot box, and seed the ground for 2026. Because this is beyond just a down-home southeastern coastal girl running for an elected office. This is about the governor's mansion. This is about the Senate. And this is about Georgia. And I want my son, my daughter, my grandson to be in a state where they can say that their mother had a great leadership legacy, that when it was time for her to do something, that she didn't sit down on her laurels and just worry about what was happening in her neighborhood. So this is a prime opportunity for all of us, again, to take our rage to the ballot box, because that's the only place it counts now. And to ensure that we have people at the table who look like us, who think like us, and who are willing to put people first. And I think that's extremely important in this race. Now, if you want to talk to me about climate and energy and what I believe, I'm certainly here to answer those questions for you and make myself available to you. I believe in accelerating ourselves forward into an energy future. I think us, you and me, and people we know, our neighbors, are breathing the dirtiest air, drinking the dirtiest water. Where I grew up around the Savannah River, and there on Tybee, and my doctor calls our beach, he says it's the armpit of the country because of how it's tucked in and how everything just settles there. I also know about creating green jobs and how it accelerates your economy. I also know about national projects like the ones at Boston Medical Center that I'm trying to bring here to Georgia in my everyday working life, where Boston Medical Center, the hospital, has not only covered their roof in solar, they're giving their energy credits to underserved communities.
Nice. Wow. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And that's something we can do today with essential hospitals, right? They're writing off their energy credits. They call it a power prescription, where they give it to people who come in to be treated if they're on oxygen or and they have diminished energy burden of 30% in underserved communities. So there's a lot of things we could be doing that we're not doing. The Public Service Commission is supposed to be about advocating for people to the utilities. Instead, we hear town hall speeches and press conferences like the one we just heard, where we're told about what the Georgia Power wants to do. Well, Georgia Power can do whatever it wants to do because it's $1 billion monopoly. Who's making 11% return profit from us, the ratepayers. Who in the room gets 11% on any investment that they've made? Well, I believe that some of those profits should be turned into community benefit agreements, and they should be sowing that seed back into our community where they made it, and not just writing checks to their shareholders who live wherever. So if you want to vote for people and to flip the PSC, because we need that, Daniel Blackman is running for Public Service Commission District 3. I'm running in District 2. I do not have an opponent. And so my name will definitely be on your ballot for June 17th and November 4th. And you need to check that box. And we need to send them a message all the way to the governor's mansion. And I can tell you that this race is being monitored nationally. And so this is a real opportunity for Georgians to make a statement and to say what we stand for. So again, my name is Dr. Alicia Johnson, and I'm here and available to take your questions. And yes, ma'am.
I actually have written it down.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
I had to write it down.
Yes, go ahead.
You brought up the issue of Georgia Power.
Mm-hmm.
Since you mentioned it, are you in fact a customer?
I am. I've been for 52 years.
Okay, so am I. All right. I read in the Atlanta Constitution today that there's only one member of the Public Service Commission who is in fact a customer of Georgia Power. I cannot understand how that's possible.
Well,
But obviously, I think it's important the person being interviewed said that's only one small part of your job, and therefore being a customer of Georgia Power isn't really relevant. What do you think?
well, obviously that's not true. Have you all looked at your power bills recently?
Yes.
Right? So because of the Public Service Commission, the average household in Georgia is paying $500 more a year. We pay the largest percentages and the largest power bills in the nation. We're among some of the highest in the nation. we've given our power company, they are a monopoly, and they have taken all of our money right back to their bottom line. So to say that it's not important, I can tell you it's important because I have 2 retired parents who are seniors, who are in their 70s. And I have an aunt who's retired back into, coming back to Georgia. She lives in a rural part of Georgia in Brooklyn. And I can tell you that the demand on her power grid stops her water supply on her well. And that during storms and things like that, there are times when she's had to come to our house just to take a shower. Because if she has no power, she has no water. So to say that the governance of the Public Service Commission that's not important, it's extremely important. Because we are impacted, our everyday lives are impacted by those decisions. I'm sure the person who had their land sieged from eminent domain for one of the railroads for Sparta for a project by the Public Service Commission, I bet they would say that that's different. So the Public Service Commission is a very important governing body, and it should be an advocate. It should be a body of change and advocacy, standing up to our utilities and working collaboratively. Now, I am not against profit, and I'm not against corporate entities. I want them all to work, but I also do not think you should do that at the disadvantage of underserved communities. And so there needs to be a shift in how that body works and some of the demands that are made to our utility companies. Again, what's wrong with the community benefit agreement? If you want to be able to upgrade the grid or let data centers come to Georgia with a 42% tax break, then they need to be reinvesting in the community they're building in.
It sounds like I heard you say indicate that it was a special election for your seat.
Mm-hmm.
And then it sounds like you said in June, and then
So June is the primary. This is a special election due to the lawsuit that was filed that said that the Public Service Commission should be people who live in the district. Like I'm District 2, and you're District 2. It runs up the eastern seaboard of the state and into a little bit into like Henry County, Spalding, that area. That the people of District 2 should choose their commissioner. And I agree with that. But that's not what happens in Georgia, like a lot of our other election laws. And we won't get into that. But the lawsuit wanted everybody to vote by district. And we are required to vote statewide, which dilutes pockets of voters, particularly minority voters. And so that's why the lawsuit was filed. This special election will allow us to select other commissioners for those representative seats. The person who is currently the incumbent for District 2, he does have a primary Republican opponent, but he's now serving year 9 in a 6-year term. So this is the opportunity to change those seats out. No more questions for me?
How can we find out more about your campaign?
You can go to Alicia, ALICIA, the number 4, Georgia.com. Website is there. You can volunteer, you can contribute, you can also request yard signs. Again, November, sometime we forget, but November's coming quickly. You can request signs or any information there.
Dr. Johnson, as a PSC commissioner, what impact can you have on Georgia utility companies in terms of climate change and clean energy initiatives?
Well, I want to oppose utility attempts to pass the full fuel cost of fuel spikes and plant Vogel overruns to us. I want to cap unjustified returns on equity for utility companies and demand a complete cost audit of significant infrastructure projects that includes mandating community benefit agreements for large-scale energy or utility projects. I want to advocate for reinvestment back into local economies, including clean energy job training, workforce development, and health resilience initiatives in disproportionately unburdened areas like Lake County, like Chatham County. I want to stop or slow the proliferation of data centers that are growing with increased noise pollution, heat output, and potential declines in air quality, which will be draining our grids. I want to promote the use of microgrids and energy storage in vulnerable and rural communities to protect against the outside environmental issues like we face with storms, quite a bit, right? Integrate environmental equity mapping tools into the PSC decision-making so that we can identify and mitigate disproportionate harm to frontline communities. I also want to see the PSC require cumulative impact assessments before approving polluting or extracting projects like that one we're seeing with the proposed mine near Okefenokee. And I want to push utilities to increase their investments in solar, wind, and battery storage, reducing the burden and reliance on fossil fuels. We want to prioritize distributed energy solutions like community solar, like the one I talked about, and rooftop solar to ensure accessibility for renters and low-income families. I want to advocate for the long-term IRP or the integrated resource plans that center climate resilience and carbon reduction and push for more transparency so you know what is actually happening with your utilities every day. And those are things that can be done quickly and right away. Those aren't things that we have to wait for a legislative decision on. Those are things that the PSC can be doing for